Hello there. So today we are going to talk about another interesting concept in economics termed absolute advantage. Okay, so the first question we would like to ask ourselves is what is absolute advantage? So absolute advantage is a concept that helps explain international trade. Okay, so the main idea is as follows. So if you have a country, say X, right, which is better at making pens, okay, and you have another country, say Y, which is better at making notebooks, then it makes sense for each country to focus on the area where they have an advantage and trade. So in this case, if country X is better at producing pens, specialize in the production of pens, and if Y you are good at producing notebooks, focus on producing notebooks and trade. So X, you trade your pens to Y, and Y, you trade your notebooks to X. So this is the main idea. So I'm going to illustrate this graphically for you. Okay, so here we have country X and country Y. Okay, so this is country X and this is country Y. Okay, so let's say country X is USA. Okay, and then country Y is Ghana. And we have 1 unit of labor in each country. Okay, so this is my unit of labor in USA. Okay, so let's call this unit of labor Craig. And then we have another unit of labor in Ghana. Okay, and let's call this unit of labor Ikea. Okay, so absolute advantage says that, well, if USA is able to produce 3 pens, right, and say 1 notebook, I'm going to use NB as a shorthand for notebook, and Ghana can produce 1 pen and say 3 notebooks. So here we can see that USA has an absolute advantage in the production of pens, and when we consider pens, and then when we look at notebooks too, Ghana is able to produce more notebooks as compared to the USA. So here we see that Ghana has an absolute advantage in the production of notebooks. Hence, each country should focus on what they are good at. So here, USA should focus on the pens, right? Ghana should focus on the notebooks and then trade. That's the main concept behind absolute advantage. Okay, so let's go into how this idea originated. So this idea was first described by Adam Smith. Okay, sorry, Adam Smith. Okay, who is popularly known as the father of modern economics. Okay, and it was first described in his book titled The Wealth of Nations in 1776. Okay, and he just considered labor like I described earlier. Okay, so what are some of the drawbacks of this concept? Let's talk about some of the drawbacks. Okay, so one of the major drawbacks is that it does not consider opportunity cost, and I will discuss this in a separate video. So What do we mean by it does not consider opportunity cost? So in the previous example, I gave you two countries. Okay, so you had the US and then you had Ghana. Okay, so you had USA and then you had Ghana. Okay, so what if USA has an absolute advantage in producing both pens and notebooks? So US can produce 10 pens and then 5 notebooks, and Ghana can just produce 2 pens and then 3 notebooks. Well, absolute advantage says, USA is efficient in producing pens and notebooks, so there's no need to trade, right? However, it doesn't consider the fact that the USA could have a comparative advantage in producing one good over the other. So here in this case, we can see that the USA will have a comparative advantage in producing pens. Okay, it has a higher opportunity cost if it produces notebooks. Okay, so here it will have a higher comparative advantage in producing pens, and then here Ghana has a higher comparative advantage in producing notebooks. Okay, so this leads us to the concept of comparative advantage. This is another concept I will describe in another video later. Advantage. Sorry. Okay, so this was actually propounded by a famous economist called David Ricardo. In his book titled On the Principles of Political Economy and Taxation in 1817. Okay? On the principles. Another major drawback of the concept of absolute advantage is that it looks at just who is better at making something as a reason for trade. However, there could be several reasons, okay, such as demand, okay, or how the production of something can be, or how any economic situation can change in the future. It doesn't look at what can happen in the future. It doesn't look at technology as well. So that's another major drawback. Okay, so another drawback of absolute advantage is that it's not able to explain why a country may still trade even though it has an absolute advantage in all goods. Okay, so for instance, if the USA can produce pens, has an absolute advantage in pens and notebooks, why may the USA want to trade with Ghana, right? It doesn't consider that. Well, one reason may be because of the love of variety, right? There could be several factors, but it doesn't consider this. Here. This is trade.